The Industry 101. Here are some highlights in this episode. I think that's something that you'd have to kind of gauge on an individual basis, and that really comes with you knowing yourself and how strong your confidence level is, because maybe their level of skill and talent didn't really match. This is my debut project, and it needs to come across like that. Out of 10 songs, it may have like 8 features. There are plenty of artists that may have made a mistake. Welcome to the Industry 101. Class is beginning right now. Hey, thank you for joining us on the Industry 101, where if you've got questions, I'll get you answers. I'm your host, Robbie Jenkins, and when we come back, we're going to address 2 questions from our viewers. One happens to be about having guest artists on your project, and the other happens to be about staying true to yourself as an artist. So 2 really good questions, and we're going to get right to them when we come back. See you in a few. I create music because I believe what I believed at age 10. Music has power. It can evoke feelings on a global scale, whether it's making people dance, inspire healing, fall in love, or buy a bottle of water. Music can do it. Each melody, chord progression, rhythm, or tempo can deeply affect the core of anyone, anytime, anywhere. That's why I create music, because I believe in what it can do. I believe music has power. Hey, welcome back. So our first question is from GH from Atlanta, Georgia. And thank you, GH, for submitting and being a member now of the Industry 101 family. The question reads as such: is it a good strategy to have a well-known artist on your first project, or do you feel that would hinder someone's career? That's a good question. My thought on that is that there's plenty of examples that I could probably throw at you, either or, right? There have been some art, I won't name any, but there have been some artists where having that well-known artist kind of gave them like the stamp of approval, and lets people know that, look, I mess with this artist, so I'm kind of feeling like maybe you should too. And I'm putting my stamp of approval on it by getting in the booth with them and adding my artistic value to this project, right? There have been some artists where that didn't work as well, where maybe having that major artist on that project overshadowed the new artist that's coming out, because maybe their level of skill and talent didn't really match as well. So a feature like that may have done some disservice. And I think that's an individual basis. I think, and GH, I'm not sure if you are an artist, but if you are, and you're asking that question because there's a possibility of something like that happening for you, I think that's something that you'd have to kind of gauge on an individual basis. And that really comes with you knowing yourself and how strong your confidence level is in what you're doing. So if you feel like having a major artist on your project may take away from the factor of people getting to know you and focusing in on you, because some artists really need that. There's some artists where they really need 100% of the focus, and having somebody else on there, even if they're not a well-known artist, sometimes just having, I've heard projects where, the new album, the debut CD, has like, out of 10 songs, it may have like 8 features. Kind of hard for me to get into you if you've got so many other people on there. After a while, I'm going to start listening to them if you've got too many. And that's a common thing. Some people feel like they want to do that because part of their game plan is that these are actually part of their crew or part of their company, and they want to introduce them as well. I personally think, if it was me personally, my debut project would primarily have the majority of the songs be me, right? It doesn't hurt to do 1 or 2 features, 1 or 2. If you want people to really focus in and be interested in who you are and what you have to say, who you are as an artist, and really get into you, then the majority of your stuff should be about you. This is your debut. Plenty of times I've seen and heard feature artists that have come on board, and they just kind of just overshadow, just completely, just really just stomped on the main artist that is supposed to be the focal point and the center of attention. So if it's a major artist, I don't think it's a hurtful thing. I think it really depends on an individual basis, the combination of those two artists. Who is the major artist and who is the independent or the brand new artist that's coming out, and how well do they mesh together? Do the levels of ability and talent and skill, do they match? Do they even come close? Do they sound like they belong together? Sometimes people just pull names in or get a name on the project because they just feel like this is going to be a great thing, and it may not be. So I would say just be careful about that. If that's something that you're considering, ask yourself some very important questions. Number one, does this major artist really mesh well with what I'm doing? Number two, do I feel confident about my performance on this project where it matches the level and skill set as this other artist? And 3, are there too many songs or too many other features where it's going to take the focal point away from me? This is my debut project, and it needs to come across like that. And some people just get caught up in just having a party, just bringing people in, and then before you know it, you got all your songs have other people on them, and so we don't really know who we're supposed to be listening to anymore. So it's one of those things where you can get lost. So just be careful. And again, there's probably tons of, and the fact that you submitted that question tells me that you are already aware that there are plenty of artists that may have made a mistake in doing that. They just might have. But there are also great examples of people where doing that was the best thing they could have done, right? And that's not a brand new thing. This stuff goes back decades, where there are artists all the time who were picked to introduce new artists, right? There's one label, legendary label, where their top artist was picked to introduce the new artist that they were putting out, right? And that artist that they picked wasn't even the artist that brought them to the label. It was another artist that actually did it, but they weren't at that level of stature where it would make a great enough impact. And so they picked the one that did and said, hey, look, we need you to come on board and say that you're introducing this act to the world now. And it worked. It worked. That artist was not on the album though. They didn't do a feature, they didn't sing a song, they didn't sing a note. It was just, I'm just letting you know that I like this group. And that was all there was to it. After that, you know, the rest was sheer talent on the part of the act, and they were very talented. But I think you get what I'm saying. So there's other ways to kind of play that if you don't want to take too much of the focal point away from you as an artist. All right, so when we come back, we're going to address our next question, which has to do with staying true to yourself as an artist and what that really means and how you do it. We'll be right back. And now we bring you an FYI moment. This moment will present to you an example of some of the things that I mentioned in my responses to question 1. And it's sponsored by Cold Cast Couture, a fashion line that is cut from a different cloth, and Overture Entertainment Incorporated. Strong inceptions, lasting impressions. Did you know that Rihanna left Def Jam to sign with Roc Nation, Jay-Z's new imprint, about 6 years ago? Let's look at Jay-Z's genius. Her debut album, Music of the Sun, debuted at number 10 on the Billboard Top 200 and had 4 features. Her second album, A Girl Like Me, debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200, and it had 4 features as well. Now, her third album, Good Girl Gone Bad, debuted at number 2 on the US Billboard Top 200, and we're all familiar with the single Umbrella, which won her her first Grammy Award. The thing about it is that this album only had 2 features. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Coming up next. But does it have anything to do with you as an artist? Does it represent you? That's what connects them to you. Not you trying to be somebody that you're not because you think it's going to make you some money. The way to stay true to yourself, and that is the key thing when you're making any decisions, is to again know who you are as an artist. What makes you original? And the actual answer to that is
when the fourth round.
Talking about
this house, that car you drive.
Scampy for limited.
Not an option, I'm a man. Not an option. But the way you're gazing at me just made me bite my lip. Hey! Love is not supposed to hurt. Just totally anew.
Provides young people opportunities to use their creative spirit, to develop their individual artistic talents, and to develop new works of art while participants work in a diverse ensemble setting.
Hi, I'm Robbie Jenkins, and as all of you are doing your part to fight the coronavirus pandemic by staying home, we here at Overture Entertainment Television will do our best to provide programming that both educates and entertains you. So please, stay home, stay safe, and tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in. Make sure you tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
Stay home.
While you're at home,
Perfect time for the whole family to tune in.
No laugh this time. This is a serious matter. Thank you for remaining in your seats and not leaving class. And now, question 2 in this episode of The Industry 101. Don't forget to stick around for your assignment at the end. Okay, so we're back now with our second question for this episode, and this one comes from GA in Stamford, Connecticut. And this is a great question. All of our questions are great, and these are questions that a lot of new artists are being faced with on a regular basis and probably just haven't had the opportunity or the exposure or the access to someone who can answer them, or at least point them in the right direction to get answers. So GA's question is, when trying to find your demographic, what are some rules that you have to stay true to yourself as an artist and not just conform to a genre and or style that's making money right now? That is a loaded question. That is a heavy question. I'm going to read it again. When trying to find your demographic, what are some rules you have to stay true to yourself as an artist and not just conform to a genre and or style that's making money right now? Wow. So here's what I would say. First of all, the name of the game is actually to make money. But I think if you spend your time and energy chasing money, money eludes you because you're not focusing on the quality of your craft. You're not focusing on what you're presenting. You're focusing on, I'm just going to do what's selling right now because it's selling right now. But does it have anything to do with you as an artist? Does it represent you? Is it something that you are genuinely connected to? There's some artists who just, in order to stay relevant, they just jump around from genre to genre because this is the move right now, and they sound kind of awkward doing it. They don't sound like it's a natural fit for them. It sounds like they're trying too hard. For some people it works, but it doesn't work for everybody. Some things are just not, they just don't match across the board on age and just a lot of reasons why. I think the way to stay true to yourself, and that is the key thing when you're making any decisions, is to again know who you are as an artist. What makes you original? And the actual answer to that is you make what you do original. Just being who you are and remaining who you are. If part of your image, let's say, is to wear sunglasses, but that's not something you normally do, if you find yourself, here's a test and here's how you can figure it out. If you find yourself getting ready to leave the house, getting into the car, and then cutting the car back off and running back inside because you forgot your sunglasses, then that's not normally who you are. Because if it was, you wouldn't have forgotten them. And if it doesn't matter, then you would drive off. You would have just drove off. You know, just being yourself means to actually do that. Be who you are, feel comfortable in your own skin, and let the music that you create represent who you are, because that's what people want to know. They want to know who you are in here. What's that? And then if you have the skill set on top of that to express it in an artistic way that draws people in and they feel comfortable hearing what you have to say and what you have to sing, what you have to play if you're an instrumentalist, that's what connects them to you. Not you trying to be somebody that you're not because you think it's going to make you some money. People can tell. And here's the other part that most people don't think about. Whatever you record, you have to perform. I'll say that again. Whatever you record, you will have to perform it one day. And if it's a big hit, guess what? You'll have to perform it pretty regularly throughout the rest of your career in most cases, because people are going to want to hear that. And if that song, I met an artist, I won't say their name, on one of the tours I was on, and they had at that time, they had a top 10 hit. In fact, it probably was at number 2 at the time. And we got in a van to leave the hotel to go to the venue to do the show. It was up in upstate New York, actually. I want to say it was Albany. And real nice person. You know, I said, you know, hello to them and hey, congratulations. I just checked the charts and I see that your single is number 2 and rising. It could be number 1 next week. And their response was, hey, well, thank you. I hate that song. Certainly not what I expected to hear. I didn't expect to hear that at all. I expected to hear thank you or some other kind of form of, you know, humility and, you know, appreciation. He was appreciative, but he was very factual about the fact didn't like that song. And the reason why is because the song was something that was dictated to him by the record label. Hey, we need a song like this because this is what's selling right now. And there's another artist out that has a number 1 hit with a song that sounds like this. So we need you to do that. They did it. They had a number 2 hit. He did a very brief performance of that song in the show that night, which meant he didn't really enjoy it. And he did it at the very end, which is typically what you would do because you know people come to really hear that, as well as your other songs. But he purposely did it at the end and did the shortest version possible just to say, I gave you some, but I'm out. He did the performance and was off the stage. Those are the other things. You know, whatever you record, you're going to eventually have to perform it. So if it's not who you are and it doesn't represent you, then don't do that to yourself. Don't even bother. All right? That's number 1. Number 2 is just keeping in mind that your fans can tell too. They can tell if what you're doing doesn't represent you. That's far more reason to be very secure with who you are as an artist and do things that represent that, as opposed to you doing what's current, what's considered current. I'm just saying. That's just where I'm at. All right, well, thank you, GA, for your submission. I hope that answered your question, and I hope some of you out there who had similar question to that or have been thinking about that got something from that. If you have a question, the email's at the bottom of the screen. Send something in. But we'll be right back after this message. I wrote on quite a few of these and some of those to get to some of these stages so I can do this, and I collected quite a few of these in the process. Signed quite a few of these so that I can get in the booth to record quite a few of these. The music business could be so cold, so I think I can help. If you have a question, submit it with your initials and where you're from via email. You got questions? I'll get you answers. Now, we don't give legal advice. Do I look like a lawyer to you? But then what does a lawyer look like? Just drop us an email. The Industry 101. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Yeah. Get ready to take notes, because here's this week's assignment. Question number 1. Is it a good strategy to have a well-known artist on your first project, or do you feel that would hinder someone's career? In my first response to this question, I suggested that you assess your skill and confidence level so that you're comfortable with your final performance on the recording. You don't want to be overshadowed on your own project. And then next, I suggested that you make sure that you're compatible with the artist you've invited to participate in your recording. You want to make sure that your voices complement each other, as well as your talents. Also, limit the number of features you have on this recording. An album with 10 songs should not have 8 features. Believe it or not, it confuses people as to who they should be listening to. And finally, think about why you want to have guest artists on your debut project. I hope it's not because you're not confident about your own talent. Question number 2. When trying to find your demographic, what are some rules you have to stay true to yourself as an artist and not just conform to a genre and/or style that's making money right now? I suggested identify the things or characteristics that make you so unique so that you stand out from other people. Your friends can help you with this. Next, I suggested that you really just learn to feel comfortable with being yourself. Believe it or not, that's the one thing that'll automatically make you a standout. Next, I said, let the music really represent who you are. Let it reflect your personality and your confidence in your talent. Also, please remember, your fans can tell when you're not doing that. If you're trying to do something just because it's going to make you money, you probably won't make much of it at the end. And finally, your tip for this class. Your style of music, clothing, and hair should all reflect your personality. Stay focused, and good luck. Well, that about does it for us. I want to thank GH from Atlanta, Georgia, and GA from Stamford, Connecticut for your submissions. Great questions. And those of you who are thinking now and got the wheels turning, you have some other questions you'd like answered, send them into that email address at the bottom of the screen, and we'll address them in a future episode. So, Team 101, thanks again, and thank you all for coming by the Industry 101. I'm your host, Robbie Jenkins, saying see you next time. Yeah.